Let's see. I'm trying to send this off real quick. Just gonna. You know what? I'll just do this later. I'll just do it later. Thank you everybody for waiting. Dave the Philippian donates $10. A regular contributor. Thank you, Aisha. $10. Thank you so much. Deal to 7, $20. Thank you so much. That's so nice. You know, we did the whatchamacallit, the class yesterday. Great class, and at least I enjoyed it. But nobody gave any super chats. Nobody gave any tips, so it's nice to see you guys come in and give some tips. All right, let's see what's going on, man. Man and ladies. Hey, man. Friday. And well, you know what? If you stop giving your money away to other online content providers, maybe you'd have money to tip. All right, 1 second. Yeah, we have the topic for next year. Orthodoxy in nature. Isn't that cool? I have some, I'm not going to announce some of the just yet. Who the speaker's going to be, but we're going to build it up. Yeah, we've already got some of the speakers. Saw Jim Bob in the prayer chat. Hold on, I'll have to open up a YouTube and get. It's in the bio description, whatever. But I'll try to find it. It's gonna take me a while. Unless somebody already found it before me. Let's see. Somebody find it yet? There you go. Thank you. Got it. Where are you, Jim Bob? All right. What should we talk about today? Let me see. We did our book review. Yeah, I'm getting like, it's crazy in my college emails. Look at this. Just today, 3 emails from Rutledge Books on book recommendations. That's crazy. September philosophy happenings in Helena, Montana. Let's see what's going on here. Think and Drink, Philosophy Think and Drink, Thursday, September 11th. Hayride Philosophy Walk on Story and Meaning. Experience the world through an interpretive lens. Philosophy Symposium. Conservation and Growth Policy, Wildlife and Environment. And then there's more. I don't always like going to these things. People are too liberal and normie at the. I miss what I used to have growing up in Orange County, California, with the philosophy groups. We had two groups. We had Mars Hill that met like every Wednesday night. First of all, they were instituted and led by Christians, although I'd say I wouldn't even say the majority of people who attended were Christians. But it provided a kind of um and kind of ethos. Um, the other one was Dialogue, was Russ Mannion's. It met, I think, every Friday, once a month. And hey, I learned philosophy on the streets before I even went to college to learn philosophy. Is that interesting? Day the Philippian. Father Maximus Constas has a video online speaking of a college conference. Yeah, he might be a good person to. By the way, I was, quoting him yesterday. But I mean, there's a lot of things that fit. Like, we're going to be talking about ecology as well, and stewardships of creation, monasticism. The monks are coming. Uh, and then also the incarnation is, like the theme of incarnation as well is present in there. So I'm really excited about. Really, really excited. Yes. All right, let's see what's going on here. Um, um, well, I'm not born in Norway, but yeah, I have Norwegian in me. Irish, British, it's all Northern European, Scottish. Got 1% Neanderthal. I mean, Netherlands. Not sure who told you we can't predicate by negation. We do all the time in logic, so. Uh. Let's see if we have any other super chats. Super chats. Oh, we got some big ones, bro. Sergi, it's $50. Thank you, Father. God bless you for all your work you do. Thank you. Sharing of how your mind interprets the faith is really helping me untangle the logical mess I tangle in my brain and during the atheistic stage. Wow. May the Lord give you many, many years. Thank you, Sergi, so much. Wow, that's. Well, I'll pay for my lunch today. Ma'am's coming down. Ma'am. From Lincoln. From Uncle Ted. I call our cabin up there Uncle Ted's cabin. So thank you. Thank you, really. I'm not just saying that. I really do mean that. All right, other questions. Give a shout out to my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Nathan Jacobs. I heard that, remember, he was a speaker last year. We've done conferences together. Dear friend. Supposedly he did, I gotta watch it, the morality, LGBT, and other hot buttons beyond the Bible. Let me just read what it says. Our culture often frames debates on homosexuality, transgenderism, and abortion is a simple clash between Christians versus progressives, but the real story runs deeper
In this episode, Dr. Nathan Jacobs tackles three of today's most pressing ethical and cultural issues, examining them through the great traditions of moral philosophy, natural law, deontology, divine command theory, and utilitarianism. By the way, I discovered that about 3 years ago when we were overturning, when SCOTUS was overturning um, the federal laws on abortion, and just hearing, we even had students who were like, I can't believe. Well, I was teaching an ethics class at the time, and so, like, things often happen. Things that don't seem to be connected, but things that you're doing, like, they can kind of converge, and you get an insight, a eureka moment where you're like, oh. And I started realizing that the left and liberals on these issues, whether guns, abortion, they're very utilitarian, consequentialists. And I developed an argument about that. Let's see if I can find. I wonder if I saved it. I gotta write these things out. I gotta be better about when I get an idea. You ever see people that get their notes out and write? Those are better people than me. Because I'm a dummy. I did. I saved it. I'm not a dummy. Shall I read it to you? This was from 2022 that I wrote this. Yeah, I got a DNA. They already got my look at. I know you're gonna criticize me. They already got my DNA. We when I lived in California, uh had a break-in, and for some reason the cops, insisted that it's like they'd ever catch them anyways, but they wanted to get like DNA samples so they could clone us. You can clone me. Just don't, if my clone commits a crime, pin it on me. But they already had it, and they had it through my parents and my wife's parents taking their DNA test. So yeah, I got a DNA. It's interesting. It's really, just don't send it, like, don't make the mistake and like I did first, and I sent it off to 21andMe, and my DNA results came back that I was retarded. I'm like, oh, 23andMe. All right, here we go. Interesting conversation from our ethics class today. This is 2022, where I spoke about Kantian notion of autonomy. Kant's really big on this. Versus consequentialist utilitarian ethics. Autonomy is important, but would you treat it as an absolute? Or do you sometimes sacrifice autonomy for things you deem that are more important? And also, I was thinking about this in terms of libertarianism. For some reason, I know the reason. There is a reason why libertarianism, I just don't like it, where they treat, and I'd probably say classical liberalism. Classical liberalism, libertarianism have this idea of this just general vacuous concept of autonomy and freedom, and they treat it as an absolute. And it's like, yeah, sometimes like in my worldview, I'm like, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. Like, context matters, and there's no just kind of general idea. It's like the same thing the left does with diversity. Like, diversity in of itself is like something desirable. It's like, that's just, it's the details that matter. But there aren't these kind of abstract, you know, forms that are just vacuous of any of the kind of details that we just strive just, well, it's good, we should just have that, and then let alone make it a first principle. So anyways, I was asking students about this in 2022 when I was teaching the ethics class here. Most students went with the idea that autonomy is important but not absolute. So that was interesting. It seemed that advocating for absolute autonomy would equate to a vote for lawless anarchy. They worked that out. Just simply just asking questions. Like, and I mean, think of, what you're trying to do with students and philosophy is have an examined life. You know, we have all these kind of platitudes. You know, it's a free country. I should be free to do whatever I want. It's like, can you stop and think about that? Let's examine that. And then you find that people haven't thought it out. Well, as long as you don't do this, that's always the, well, where does that come from? Well, doesn't it just sound good? You should be free to do as long as, and then they add in, reminds me of the Protestants. You know, all you have to do is believe in Jesus. Oh, really? Is that all? And then you ask them, like the Mormon Jesus, like, what about that? No. But then they start adding in all the conditions. It's a con, just like signing up for Verizon or something, because there's all these conditions in fine print that you don't read. Yeah. You should be free to do this. Or what's the other one? We should be tolerant and non-judgmental, except in all these cases here. It just shows that most people don't kind of introspect or think even 5 seconds before something comes out of their mouth, let alone an examined life. And that's what I'm trying to encourage students, is like, let's just think through this. So I was really proud of them that it didn't take them long to go, well, no. I mean, if freedom was an absolute, you know, we wouldn't have law, it'd just be anarchy. People can't simply do whatever they want. They got that. Then the conversation moved to discuss autonomy, freedom, law, rights, Roe v. Wade, because what was going on in 2022 was it was being overturned, if you remember that. And we said, well, let's take these arguments like my body, my choice. You can't tell women what they can do with their bodies. So I took those. I'm like, okay, so these are these, like, let's analyze, because this is what I want to do. If you're studying the ethics or philosophy, it's like, can we connect this to what we're learning? And that's always good too, is that it's not just abstract kind of theories, that it's connected to real life. There's practicality. And so I let them do this. And without telling them the answer, let them discover, be like, what theory is this? Like, how is this, where does this come from? And I asked them a further question. I said, look, I'm going to put the questions, and I'm on all sides. So if you can't tell me what I can do with my body, is the argument, what's the sed contra? And I said, here's what it'd be. And I'm not going to tell you what the answer is. You've got to figure it out. How would you respond to this? But isn't that exactly what law does? Isn't that the purpose of law? Law tells us what we can and cannot do with our bodies. So that's not an objection you can't tell me to do. That's not an argument. In principle. Unless you want to go back to the previous thing you said that decided against, which was anarchy. And there's a funny phrase, like, thing, I saw a meme. It was like making fun of libertarianism, but somebody had like graffitied some libertarian thing. You know, don't let government don't let anybody tell you what to do or something. And then somebody wrote next to it, don't tell me what to do. It was just, I can't remember the exact, it was funnier when you saw the, all right. So far, so good. Yeah, it was something like that. It's like never listen to authority, and then somebody spray painted next to it, like, don't tell me what to do. You could apply the same to this argument. My body, which like, you can't tell me what to do with my body. Like, don't tell me what to do with my body. I should be able to criticize you and shame you by your same principle because you can't tell me what I can do with my body, namely my mouth. Ubi just texted me something. Oh, Ubi, I will talk to you later. Conversation took a different turn. One of the students trying, but if we make abortions illegal, then many women will die from back alley abortions. We've all heard this, right? Do you know what an end theme is? The argument where there's a missing premise, an unstated conclusion. The end theme is an argument with a missing premise, but the unstated conclusion is we don't want women to die, therefore we shouldn't make abortions illegal. So rather than addressing something head on, I ask another question. I ask them, okay, good. Take that. What philosophy that we've been studying, what ethical system does that sound like? That might make that type of argument. Some of the students correctly identified this as a type of utilitarian or consequentialist argument. Since consequentialism or utilitarianism doesn't hold anything to be intrinsically good or bad, except perhaps well-being, whatever that means in the system, but we don't have to get into that. So everything's deemed to be good or bad, morally speaking, just if it's considered optimistic. And that word optimistic means yielding the greatest balance of benefits over drawbacks. So a bastardized version, it misses kind of details, the greatest good for the greatest number of people. That's not really it. The term you want to use is optimistic. And what that means is, yeah, there's going to be drawbacks and stuff, but you have the greatest balance of benefits over drawbacks is really what that means. Or it's morally unacceptable in consequentialism just because it's not optimistic. In other words, good and bad are completely determined by the consequences. It seemed clear to the students that judging overturning of Roe v. Wade would be either good or bad based solely on whether women would die from back alley abortions was thoroughly utilitarian. In contrast, and I'm like, what is that in contrast to? And they got it, Kantian ethics. And Kantian theological ethics, something is just or unjust in its own right. Doesn't matter how many people die or something like that, or like the negative consequences. But is it right? Is it just in its own right? Whether there are negative or positive consequences to an act is simply irrelevant to whether one ought to or ought not to do an action. So it's too bad women are going to die, but you can't change the action. You can't change the thing from being good or bad because women are going to die. Like something bad's going to happen. Also, we consider the following argument. Assuming a Kantian perspective that certain laws and actions are intrinsically good or bad, just or unjust, couldn't somebody object that we ought to legalize crimes just because of possible negative consequences that may or may not result? Which, interesting enough, is the argument that Justice Alito made concerning the overturning. He brought that up against the liberal justices on the Supreme Court. I mean, consider applying this consequentialist principle to other areas in life. And they never do. These people, especially liberals, they're never consistent. So let's apply it and see what would happen. On this line of reason, we would say that we ought to legalize bank robberies because bank robberies, if they continue to be illegal, are dangerous. People are going to be killed by armed guards of the police. And since we don't want more deaths or risk death for bank robbers, we ought to make it safe. We should have safe spaces for bank robberies and other crimes. I mean, nobody in their right mind would. People, what did I say here? We ought to make it safe for people to commit what would normally be crimes, making those crimes legal. Or decriminalizing. I'll just let them do it. We don't want to. And then, of course, the students responded that bank robberies and abortions are not the same thing. I always hear that. It's not the same thing. Yeah, it's called the definition of analogy. Two things that are not the same that share something similar by which you can make an analogy. How many times have you heard that? It's not the same. You can take two things that are different, find what they share in common. In this case, are the two things crimes? I'm assuming, and get them to say before Roe v. Wade and stuff. Yes. If you're worried about people who engage in crimes getting hurt and therefore you want to decriminalize, then there's an analogy I can make there. You're not being consistent. Oh, well, for this, because I'm not actually concerned about bank robberies and people robbing banks. I don't want that, but I want women to have abortions. See? So it's about what you want. It's not about logic, reason, what's just. Give me what I want. All for me and none for thee. Is if murdering an unborn child is intrinsically immoral and a crime, then the fact that some lives might be lost if people decide to commit that crime is simply irrelevant. I'd be like, then they shouldn't do it. Why is it? I mean, how stupid is that? We gotta legalize stuff so people don't get hurt doing the thing that they shouldn't be doing? I mean, is that really what we're going with? Lastly, it occurred to me that if we took a utilitarian consequentialist line of reasoning, shouldn't we ban abortion? Just because such an action would clearly be optimific. In other words, won't more lives be saved, infant lives, by making abortion illegal than whatever number of women would die from back alley abortions? And since the utilitarian must always choose the action that has the greatest balance over drawbacks, they would need to ban abortion to maximize the number of lives saved and decrease the number of lives lost. Isn't that interesting? Also, I thought about this with what recently went on, and I was seeing liberals online like This is why we need to ban guns. And all the argument for more gun restrictions, first of all, we have red tape law. We have all kinds of. Look how far we've come and how restricted it. Has it done anything? I guess gun violence gone down because, like, they just keep. Yeah, but if we keep doing more and more, they're promissory notes. Yeah, but if we keep doing more of the same that's never worked, it'll eventually get better. It's like, it's just gotten worse. It just means that lawful citizens can't protect themselves. Like, you might have an argument if you actually showed by more restrictions things have gone down, but it hasn't. It's just been just the opposite. So that's stupid. But furthermore, if you are actually thinking in terms of a consequentialist ethics, why not actually just target certain groups of people who proportionally create more, that engage in more crimes? Why should I be punished for what other groups, per capita are engaged in? Do you think the liberal would fall for, like, so you're showing that they're inconsistent? Oh, well, that's not just. Oh, now there's an idea of just. So you can just jump around whatever ethical paradigm you want, just pick and choose. Oh, yeah, but when it suits me, I'll abandon that principle and I'll come over here. I'll grab some of freedom over here. I'll make them consequentialist. But when you pin me down in consequentialist, now all of a sudden I'm going to be a Kantian, talk about, well, that's not just. That's a violation of. I mean, those groups have now rights. Okay. Interesting. Now you're concerned about. Isn't that funny? They didn't care about. Right. I mean, if you're literally willing to infringe on Second Amendment right, well, you can't use that. And if anything, you know what? I'm gonna start at the top of the list. If we're gonna start infringing and making restrictions on rights, I want the first, like, start with the first one. Let's do the First Amendment and just be like, yeah, you're not allowed to. It's dangerous what you're saying. And so we're gonna restrict First Amendment. Oh no, you can't. That's constitutional right. Wow. These people are total hypocrites. Right? Anyways, how did we even get on this utilitarian? I can't remember. Rip donates $5. God bless. Thank you for all your prayers this stream. Thank you. Contemporary Compendium, $5. Hot take: neither communism nor libertarianism can work because they both assume that people are good and always make the correct choice. Does communism? Alright, I was a libertarian. I'm gonna push back. I'm gonna play the devil's advocate. I'm a recovering libertarian. I heard this objection as libertarians, and I would say, no, libertarianism does not assume that people good and will always make the best choice, but that the best system is, regardless of people's bad choices. I'm strawmanning libertarianism, so you're gonna have to answer this. What's the word? Tort law contract, right? Voluntarism is the best way to deal with people who are bad and make bad decisions. So if I was a libertarian, that's what I say. Be like, no, I don't assume that people always make the correct choice. I assume that the bad choice. That's why we need contracts, contract law, um, and a principle of voluntarism. What would you say about that? I certainly don't think that communism assumes that people make good choices. I don't even think it cares about that. I'm a recovering libertarian. I know all the arguments. That's why I'm not a libertarian. I can't stand. What I do is I just question again with libertarianism. I don't go after that. I don't think that they actually do think that it's premised on people making good decisions or that human nature is good. I mean, sometimes you kind of see that come out in different ways, but I think it's premised on kind of enlightenment concepts of man and rights, um, unalienable rights. Like freedom is the highest. That's why they developed the non-aggression principle, and I'm like, I love it. I love aggressing. I just go after them. They're my first of all the non-aggression. Like, what is aggression? It's too vague. Like, is it just physical aggression or is it moral? Um, it could be visual. Like, it's like, and who decides that? But number two, what if I just negate it? But like, I don't actually care. What if I don't care about your freedom? I'm like, I don't care what you want to do. You're going into the camps. Like, how about that? Well, that's not. I don't believe in your job. Like, you just question their first principles, kind of like you do with atheists, right? The atheist wants to borrow all the Christian principles that they can't justify so they can make an argument against you. Oh, I thought you Christians are supposed to be loving, and they go after justice. I mean, use these Christian concepts of justice, uh, knowledge, um, love, all these different things that would not exist in an atheist world. And what do I always say in debates? People do, well, just grant me all my unjustified assumptions so I can make an argument against you. I'm like, do I look like an idiot? Why would I do something like that? What's the matter with you? I'm not going to do that. And it's the same with. So what you do is be like, oh, but this is like, right? These things are evil and blah blah blah, or like you shouldn't like. Well, I'm doing internal critique. Why is an internal critique good? Why should I do that? Why shouldn't I enslave people? Like, you tell me from like you just assuming that everybody has to agree with your unjustified assumptions. And don't, like, it's the same thing with this. That's very questionable. Like, and they think that you're actually this is the other thing. It's like they can't get hypotheticals or something. They think that like that's actually what you're. It's like, no. The reason why I'm asking you, why shouldn't you do quote unquote all these bad things? Why shouldn't I do? Is to try to get an answer from you from your worldview of why we shouldn't. We're not advocating that you go and murder and grape people and enslave them or something like that. We're asking you, if it's an atheistic world, why shouldn't I? They can't seem to get that for some reasons. For some reasons. Chad, it's... For some reasons. So do you do the same thing with the libertarian? I hate the nap. Every time when I see the nap, I want to crush it and whoever's advocate thrown in prison. How about that? What are you gonna do about it? What are you gonna say about it? All right, what's going on? Why are people so hung up with the monad dyad? I've never seen something so simple that people get so confused about. Literally 1, 2, and 3. Like they can't. I. Maybe it's because I studied the history, like of the great books, basically, and I understand. Went through all the math. I don't know. Like, it's really hard for me. Uh, I try to get outside of my head and figure out like why is somebody struggling with something. Monad means not divided. It's one, mono, right? Not different. If you have the exact next principle is dyad, which literally means, and 2 is an instance of that. There could probably be other instances, but dyad means not one. So they're literally they're what's called opposite relations, opposites. You can't relate opposites unless you have something they both share they can relate by. So just think about this. 1 means not different. Dyad means difference. So if I'm gonna say this thing is both one and many, the principle of distinguishing many is dyad. It's not triad. It's not quadrad or anything like that. Literally just dyad. That's what it means. Well, I can't say this is both one and many because if it's one, it's not many, and if it's dyad, it's let's say it's 2, it's not 1. I need a third principle. The next principle is triad. Triad is is neither monad nor dyad, but it encompasses it, right? That's something that it can share, right? Think about it. What's contained in triad? Monad and dyad, but triad is not reducible to any one of those and encompasses it. What's a quadrad? Because you're asking, like, why can't something be... It reduces back to those 3 principles. Quadrad's either 1, monad 4 times. So I have the same problem. Like, are they all monad? Is it all the same? Then 4 reduces to not difference. If it's dyad, 2 and 2, it's what? It's ultimately just difference, and it doesn't. And if it's monad and triad, it's just superfluous, right? You don't have the 3 encompassing the 1. You had it added and separated from the 3. and each one is it's pretty simple. So only triad can actually solve the dialectical tension. Yeah, monad composed of four monads is just what, like, you never got around the problem. And if it's dyad, it's just difference. If it's a multiplication of just dyads, then there's no way to say that it's one. And if it's triad and a monad, right, you're just, how is the, there's no principle by which they're related, they're separated. So that's, but I was told 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus, yeah. It could, if that's why triads just it's more than just three. It's different than three is could be an instance, but three could just be. And by the way, you're already appealing to triad to multiply 1 3 times. So what can be divided? So five's a dyad, and a monad. Like, what I'm asking is, like, what good does that do to you? Like, it doesn't explain anything, right? In fact, it seems to separate out, because I'm going to ask, well, how is the dyad and the monad? Great, I have. How are they related? And isn't that three of those things? So you're already appealing to the triad, even in that. That's what I mean is, after triad, it's just simply superfluous numbers that return back ultimately to either monad, dyad, or triad. So it's not simply what it's composed of, it's what principles are you using in those. You've already appealed to triads, right? So, and you're just doing superfluous stuff. You're just adding additional stuff on that doesn't do anything. I don't think St. Gregory of Nazianzus says the triad's composed of something it encompasses. All right. So that's pretty straightforward. That should end all the. Yes, that's right. Oh, I'm sorry about putting. Oh, I love going after the free will deniers. It's great. I did a whole stream on J.P. Moreland's paper, an explanation of the defense of the free will thinking. Some of this even comes from the atheist philosopher John Searle, who shows that determinism's a defeater for knowledge. Really good paper. All right, let's see. Good conversation, but I want to check for super chats. Also, with the libertarianism, one of the things that kind of led me out of it, and one of my mentors, Tristan Manglehart, who was a libertarian bioethicist, a philosophy professor, and doctor, medical doctor. I think liberalism and the left, it became a different sort of monster. Um, and it's really interesting stream to just see how liberalism, and I don't mean just classicalism, because quote unquote conservatism comes out of classical liberalism too. I mean, like what typically you would think, like the Democrat, the progressive, the leftist, and all those are different categories. Like they kind of share similar things. So the liberal, the Marxist, kind of left wing, i.e., the radical, the progressive, and the kind of Democrat. Those are all different categories, but they're on that side of the spectrum. And we could say what I'd probably like the normie liberal, your classic Democratic voter and kind of liberal mindset, how that's changed over the decades. Like what influence, that's a really kind of interesting conversation. I mean, we critique conservatism in the Republican Party, but the Democratic Party has become the Malthusian death party, the globalist party, like the um it's something different than what it used to be. And I think it's such a threat, no matter how bad Republicans may be. I think it's such a threat, and it's evolved into something like a monster. And just where we get like kind of woke, like some of these things that are basically going in that affecting society is such a threat that I realized I think libertarian was blamed for that. I think libertarian is a Trojan horse, and libertarian has nothing to like. Once you get something that is so threatening, like how is libertarianism going to deal with? It's like we're way beyond the conversation. Way beyond the point of having a rational dialogue with these people, um, and thinking how libertarianism could deal with this. We're way beyond that. Like this needs force at this and that's what I realized is that libertarianism is the enemy. It let this stuff, this cancer grow, and has no way to actually deal with. I mean, it would require something like, you know, some form of kind of autocracy, um, to deal with it, like to get rid of it. And how else do you get rid of something so threatening? I'm like, that just made me kind of realize I'm like, libertarianism is dumb and evil. All right. Let's see what else is going on today in the news. The Norwegian Nous. Get it? Hardy har har. Hardy har. Let me give you a perfect example. You just go through this and watch these stupid comment. Like, that's, I mean, there's nothing you can say to these people that they don't care about being consistent. So we see that Florida governor ends Pride Street murals, okay? And the left and liberals are all freaking out, saying we're moving out of Florida. Maybe that's what we got to do. Just take everything the liberal and left and be like, it's banned. Make it so terrible that they have to leave wherever you. I made a joke the other day. People, I'm no Trump fan. Trust me, I have plenty of criticism. By the way, this came to my mind the other day. If you're gonna make a critique, make the right ones. Otherwise, you're just supporting this thing that you look like an idiot. When you start saying, like, Trump's a serial rapist, pedo on Jeffrey Epstein's island, he's a convicted felon, you look like an idiot. There's legitimate critiques of Trump. Like, make them. It's the same thing, like, it drives me crazy about. Doesn't mean I am a MAGA Trump supporter. Way far away from that. But it's the same thing with philosophy. If you make a dumb critique that's not true, right, about. If you straw man a philosophical position, I see people do this all the time. I'm like, you look like an idiot, and all you're doing is making the other position look better because you're so dumb. There are legitimate critiques of various philosophical positions. Does that mean I subscribe to that philosophical position because I said your position is not a critique? No. But do yourself a favor. Keep your mouth shut unless you actually know what you're talking. Quit listening to the propaganda and make a legitimate critique. There are legitimate critiques of Trump. Okay? But what I will say is, what would you rather have? It's like stuck in dialectics that if I criticize one, it means that I support it. It's like, no. Well, then they're both equally bad, right? No. Do you want maggots living in your neighborhood, on your yard, or Democrats? I don't like maggots. But I can deal with maggots in my yard. What? Democrats, not, right? That's what I mean. These. One is far more threatening, and I think a lot of people felt that voting too. That it's like that they don't like. They're not saying they like. There's no other choice, and they want the other side abolished. That's, I think that really says. But let's look at this removing the pride. What I find really interesting. Yeah, DFD flipping ass, pride flag eliminated. Oh. Now you have the liberals saying, using the same language that Republicans and the right and conservatives, remember the whole snowflake? So now they're like, what's the matter? Snowflakes. Colors offend you? No. Scared of colors? No, we just don't want people putting their pee-pee in the poo-poo and having poop fetishes and teaching that to children. How about that? Get down to the nitty-gritty and be like, you want us to celebrate poop and AIDS and diseases? Not even to get into the whole moral harm that does to your soul and society. What is the matter with you? People who diddle kids. We don't want that in our society. It's not about, do I find, I'm scared of colors. I'm not even scared. Do I look scared? I don't want it. we people don't want, and we're tired of being gaslit and to be like, that's hateful. That's why I said it's beyond conversation. Like, you can't have a conversation with these people. You just got to use force and of law to be like, it's gone. I don't care what you say. I don't care what your argument is anymore, because you don't care about arguments. Now all of a sudden you're using right wing. Now I'm a utilitarian. Now I'm a Kantian. It shows they only concerned with getting their way and their power, and they're your enemies. This stuff is going to destroy your children, your soul, in society. Nothing to be scared about. And is that hateful? No, it's actually loving. I don't want people who are engaged in this stuff to, they experiencing, higher rates of illness, crime, mental illness, suicide, violence. Yeah, I don't actually love them. I'm just like, I don't want you to do that to yourself. It's not loving to be like, people should be, the libertarian attitude, people should be free to kill themselves and get diseases and have poop fetishes, have sex with poop. It's like, no, absolutely not. People should be free to engage in prawn. Absolutely not. I don't care that much about freedom. Sometimes, yeah. But most of the time, probably not. I don't care if that hurts your feelings. You don't like it. That's the way it's going to be. In a better society, that's the way it would be. I don't care about your votes. We're not allowing this in our society. Prawn is banned. Abortion's banned. Poop fetishes are banned. You're going to have to deal with it. I don't care at this point. Furries, thank you. Oh, remember when we were talking about furries? Did you know that the trans terrorist shooter girlfriend was a furry? Such a healthy lifestyle, right? Let's all just... Yeah, that's what we're talking about, the furry Latinizer dude. And then we noticed in the street too, it was like, they're like trying to be saying, oh, it's not fetishized. I'm not part of that group. Well, first of all, the whole phenomenon of furries was created as a fetish. So, like, you're still connected to that. Then I noticed this rabbit or bear, whatever the thing was, that was wearing leathers. Like, what are you talking about? It was literally like what a crazy world. I know. That, like, I told my godson, if we went back into time when I was 30 years ago in a time machine, told myself the world looks like this, I wouldn't even have the conceptual framework to be able to, like, process, let alone believe it. I'd be like, what are you saying, future self? I'm telling you, people, there's a group called furries that dress around as animals, and they even force this stuff into the public schools for them to have kitty litters in the classrooms. I'd be like, no, there's no way. Yeah, that's right. The skin tight latex suit that, like, it's not. It's like, and what do we say too? I don't care. I don't care if it's because people are like arguing against cleaved antiquity, who said it's intrinsically sinful. They were like, it's not intrinsically sinful. It's like, suppose I grant that to you. Suppose I give you that freebie. The fact of the matter that we live in a society that has a dissolution of boundaries between gender, species, morality, all these different things. You think it's a great idea to engage in further confusion It's not. Yeah, cleave down to it. It is amazing. You have like, as soon as I call your name, you appear in the. Man, my powers are getting stronger. I was doing that the other day in class. Like, uh, cleave down to 199. We live in a society. Seriously, yeah. But in class, like I put my hand out and the door closed, and the students are like, "Whoa, my powers, right?" Then the computer screen went off, and then I was like this, and it turned out like I was totally tripping out the students. And then repeat to them before, like actually tell them like what I'm. I do this all the time. I'm like, "This is what you're thinking, isn't it?" And I repeat, and they're like, "That's exactly." I'm like, "See, my powers are increasing." Get the. I need the electro. So it reminds me something similar to like language. So, for example, people might say like, "Oh, we Orthodox should use it in terms of like theology." Oh, it's okay to, for example, use the Orthodox can pray the Rosary or something like that. As long as we're not doing the visualization, I'm like, okay. Problem is, and we could have these things too with like, what was it that came up the other day with Protestant that people were, some Orthodox were kind of pushing. That I'm like, you shouldn't use that, and they were like, well, there's a way that we could say. I'm like, yeah, but the fact of the matter that, Melissa, what was that verse? I'm not gonna name the person that was saying it, but they were pushing it, and it was like it sounded really Protestant the way that they were framed. They're like, "Oh, this is the best verse ever." Anyways, I'm like, yeah, but it means something different now. The Protestants use a certain verbiage, or Roman Catholics, and then like have the Rosary, and there's things associated, like, oh, can I redeem it? And like, why would you want to do it? First of all, I just don't understand this. In the mind and conscious of society, I'm just gonna society. Who am I? I did this impersonation. Oh, society. In the public's mind, the Rosary, unlike other like the Our Father or something, is uniquely associated with Catholics. So when we say Orthodox pray the Rosary, it's like, why do that? Like, it's not doing us any favors. Oh, well, you're just like them. You see, you might have start wearing filioque collars, priests. Oh, but we can have. It's not good to the public. They get confused. Call it the prayer of the Theotokos. Yeah, Cleveland, that's what I brought up. I'm like, did you know that the shooter's trans terrorist shooter girlfriend was a furry? And we're actually saying, well, there's nothing wrong. But let's go with the analogy here that why do we want to resurrect these kind of things like, well, we can make it Orthodox and we shouldn't give them the language? It's like, talk about spiritual and intellectual immaturity. Like, this is exactly why I wouldn't have you on a board or a parish council. I mean, this is the kind of like decision making that way that you think through stuff. But I could do all this mental gymnastics and still keep the term Rosary. Don't you find it weird? well, I could still use grace alone if I do 3 hours of mental gymnastics to show how it could possibly be orthodox. What's another one? Substitutionary atonement, like penal substitutionary atonement. But if I change all the historical meaning of all those, how it's existed, and do mental gymnastics for 5 hours, couldn't I actually, in some slight possible way, say that there is some type of penalty, also substitution and atonement? Why are you doing this? Stop using it. It's not good. It's the same thing with, like, suppose they were value neutral. Suppose they weren't intrinsically sinful, the furry thing. How it was formed, the majority of groups, and what's associated, and the fact that everything's all confused in the absolving of boundaries and distinctions in the world, it's a sin. You're complicit in all of this. Have nothing to do with evil. Run from it, right? Does it say, well, go in and then just change all? Is that what Scripture says? Just go into evil and just change the words and play mental gymnastics, semantic sorcery for hours, and then try to make it work. Fredo, 555. Woo! Off topic. Brian Greene. Oh, the Higgs Bonson dude. Higgs Bonson. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Higgs Bonson. Particle physics accelerator. How do you like that? And Neil deGrasse Tyson talk free will sometime would be funny, like watching someone you. Yeah, physicist guy. Dave loves me doing the creed. Neil deGrasse Tyson particle accelerator. Do you want me to do Zizek? Accelerate. All right, I gotta see. What did Ubi send me? Oh, I gotta see this. I'm gonna play. All right, how do I send? Oh, hold on. I'll just look it up on the YouTube. YouTube. Oh, I'm trying to see one of my mom's. Man, stop! Man, I'm on the screen. No, I gotta figure out, see when she's coming in. Nope, not yet. In the messages. All right. We're gonna watch this. All right. Oh. Ready? The most Russian man in the world. This is Dos Equis.
He was born in a tracksuit. He'll die in one too. None of his male ancestors have lived past the age of 25. He turned down the NHL because they wouldn't let him smoke on the ice. His idea of a spa day is surviving a car crash in a Lada. He has a dash cam on his bicycle. He smokes in the shower to save time. His house has no chairs because he Slav squats to sit down. He's responsible for 50% of Adidas sales. His brother is responsible for the other 50. His name is Alexei. He's 14 years old. He's won every game of Russian roulette he's ever played. He smiles once a decade, then apologizes for the weakness.
That's
Every
so Russian, dude. They hardly ever.
vegetable he has ever eaten was pickled. He thinks a balanced diet means 1 potato per shot of vodka. He still sends threats via fax. He wears a Speedo to the beach 2 times too small. He gets nostalgic during nuclear drills. He calls his childhood training. He still salutes Lenin's portrait before breakfast. He is the most Russian man in the world.
I don't always drink. Wait, yes I do. And it's because I survived another year I didn't ask for. Stay drunk enough to forget, but sober enough to endure, my comrades.
That was pretty good, wasn't it? Where are you guys? All right, I'm looking for. All right. Looking for Slav squats. Going back. Well, contemporary compendium, yeah, it's uncanonical. Like that priest could, not that they probably expect that they would do this, could be actually laicized for actually saying what he said about we shouldn't outright deny going to or praying with. They're literally canons on excommunicating you for. But it wouldn't be the first time I've heard wrong stuff coming from a priest. It's not common, but like it can happen. Yeah, it is sad. Like, that's a good point. It's a shame no one thinks of Orthodox anymore when they think of Russia. Oh, going back to isn't that fun? Oh no, I already talked about that. Let's see if I recognize any of these priests in this photo. Do you like my squinting eyes? Good news. No weird, upsetting emails. To college? That's cool. Alright, what is going on X? Let's see if I can pull it.
find anything on here. Somebody had a good question. They'd never heard this before from the class. They didn't know what translation. They'd never heard in Genesis. They'd never heard of Genesis. What translation is that? No, sorry, Exodus. God says, I am who am. And I was emphasizing last night that this doesn't mean it's a Thomistic super essence, but that it's personal pronoun, who, right? So if this person's listening, obviously the Jerome's Latin Vulgate. I think the Latin is ergo sum qui sum. I am who qui who in Latin. Oh yes. Says here too, it's even in the Masoretic text, but the Septuagint. Ego imi ho on. I am the one who is who. Dewey Rames. So I guess the King James says, I am that I am. Dewey Rames, because that's going to be based on the Latin Vulgate, is I am who am. New American Bible says, I am who am. Look out! God said to the Israelites, I am who I am. All right, with the New American Bible. There you go. If you're listening, that's what's going on here. I can't get down to the. I can't speak Norwegian. Wasn't born in Norway. It's like, think about it like this. If you're Irish American, do you speak Gaelic? Probably not. Probably not. Oh. My computer's freezing up. Oh, wow. Thomas, you speak Gaelic? Irish Gaelic? There's Irish Gaelic, Welsh Gaelic, Scottish Gaelic. Yeah, I like synth tunes. I like working to synth tunes. Synth tunes. All right, 1 second. I gotta take this call. All right, we are back from commercial break. That is all. That was my mom saying she wants me to meet over at the restaurant. So, good stream. Thanks for all the super chats and your support. And what else? That is all. Thank you guys. Good. Thank you for your prayers. And may the Lord God keep you, preserve you, and protect you the rest of the week. May you have a good liturgy this Sunday. Until next time, God bless.